Hey guys, my name's Rick. Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to share with you this new table I built for my small workshop, and it's a clamping, it's a cutting, it's a welding table, overall fab table. It's terrific, I think, for the small workshop. And so let's go through it. Let's get started. Okay, so the overall top here is 24 inches wide by 33 inches long, and the tabletop sits 35 inches from the ground. And it's capped off here with a piece of 12 gauge steel, or 7/64 thick, or I think it's 2.7 millimeters. So it starts off with that on top, just to provide a nice working surface. You can remove it easy enough, set it aside, and then you have this really nice clamping table. And these are all 1.5 by 3.5 inch square tube, rectangular tubing, all 1/8 inch thick. They're all set up, and I spaced them out by 1.5 inches each, and that allows for clamps to come up through and you to be able to clamp in a variety of ways depending on what you're working with. So you can clamp right in the center of the table here, you know, like that, because you're coming up through those gaps. And I found that 1.5 inch gap. So basically a 2x4 I used to space these out ended up being optimal. So that's the clamping piece of this. I know a lot of guys will say, why didn't you cover these up? But I found that, you know, all these like little holes are excellent places for additional clamps. And you know, for clamping on the edge, or if you want to hook up your ground clamp for grounding the welder, I found those to be ideal as well. The other thing nice is these gaps is just a nice place to hang your clamps when you're working, get them out of the way. They're below the work surface, and that works out great. Okay, so here's the cutting side of the table, and this is going to be for my plasma cutting as well as the oxyacetylene torch that I have. So it's framed out with 1.5 inch square tubing, 1/8 inch thick. And then on the inside are all these different slats. There's 16 of them, and they're 21 inches long. They fit down in between the frame, and they're 3/16 inch thick by 1 3/4 inch wide. And so that should provide a nice surface, allow all those sparks and debris to shoot down through. I guess someday I could build something to redirect all those debris underneath it. I know sometimes people have a draft down table, but I'm not going to get that complicated because this is all on rollers, and if I'm going to be doing some plasma cutting, I'll probably have the garage doors open and be shooting all that debris outside onto the driveway. Now the cool thing about this is it's on a pair of hinges, and you can drop it down to make this thing more manageable in the small shop. So I've got these piece of 1 inch pipe. I can store them in right there, pull them out, let this drop down. I welded 2 hinges here, one on the underside of this rectangular tubing, and then one on here to the frame. That'll be plenty strong enough. And so yeah, I think that'll work great, because I'm not always going to be cutting, and I don't want to take up all that space in the shop. You know, one of the things I do with these carts, again, for the small workshop, is it needs to be really maneuverable. And so I put it on four swivel locking casters, and those casters are 5 inch in diameter. I picked them up on eBay for about 37 bucks for the set. That's a good tip, because I tell you, casters are expensive, even at Harbor Freight. So I I checked them out and got these from eBay, and for free delivery, no tax, delivered, so that's terrific. But the cool thing about it is that you can rotate this whole table all within the same footprint, and it's terrific because you could be welding here and then you need to weld over in that corner, but you don't want to change your lighting and everything else, so you can just rotate the whole piece. If you want to roll this outside and do some plasma cutting, you can do that as well. So it's a big win, and of course they're all locking casters, so if you ever want to have this locked down, you can just go around and, you know, put the locks in place. All right, so let's talk about this extension here. So this is just an added extension that you can pull this out another 2 feet. So you got 2 feet here, about 3 feet here, and another 2 feet on the other side. So that's, you got 7 feet of support as needed, along with you know, the 2 feet. So you can pull this out, and then, you know, I always keep some spares here. You put that there, and now you're at the same level as the table. And I don't want to weld this on here, because I want it to be, you know, have a lot of maximum configurability, if you will. So that's going to work out well. That goes in there. If you want, then you can use this as a way to move the cart around. One of the things about this cart is I didn't put a bottom in. Usually I do, and then, you know, shortly thereafter the whole thing is filled up and stacked with stuff. So I left it open, so I purposely would not do that, because I want all that room underneath, you know, for long, big long clamps. I don't want to have to move things, you know. I don't want to have to move and unload all of that before I start to work with it. So it's ready to go as is, and I can clamp quick, just like that with these big long, you know, welding clamps. Okay, in terms of the cost, that's a function of how much this thing weighs, because I pay about $1.25 per pound of steel, where I get it at Logan Steel in Meridian, Connecticut. So let's check out how much this thing weighs and see how much it costs. It says here 210 pounds. Let's see, 210 pounds times 1.25. That'll get me how much the steel costs. That's 262 plus the 37 bucks in the casters. That brings us to about 300 bucks. So overall, 300 bucks for this table. Well, guys, I hope that was helpful in case you want to build one of these yourself. Thanks so much for joining. If you want to help support the channel, don't forget to like, subscribe, add a comment. Always like to hear your comments, and we'll be back in here soon. All right, guys, take care. Bye.